and I successfully completed one. So my hope is that this will be the next one I'm going to successfully complete with you. There's something about doing it in a group setting that I feel like is super duper helpful and motivating. And so hopefully everyone saw at least, and if you didn't, go to my blog post from yesterday, KimberlyWilson.com/blog, and you'll get that's basically this little handout that is a checklist for the detox. And basically, to give you an idea, so I'm not a nutritionist, and I've gone through a vegan lifestyle coaching training, but really what I'm pulling together for you all is more along the lines of how to kind of cleanse the system and to do it in a way that works best for eliminating toxins, for also getting really in touch with, okay, what are those food cravings? Like for me, I just noticed, okay, after every meal, I want sugar, so becoming more aware of that. And then also the idea behind it is, how do I get more in touch with how my body feels when I eat? All right, so with that said, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here tonight. And I also wanted to open this up to the entire Tranquility Du Jour community because, this detox it's best not done in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is we've got a wonderful group, of course, in Year of Tranquility, but I thought I would love for this to be able to be shared kind of far and wide. And I also want you to know, okay, the detox set up through Year of Tranquility, it starts tomorrow, which is the 10th, through the 16th. Now, if for any reason you're like, oh my gosh, I have a birthday or something and I know I won't be able to do it, I want you to still do as much of this as you can. So your detox may be a 1-day, a 3-day, or a 5-day, or a 7-day. Okay, so if you're up for a 7-day, amazing. And if you're not, that is totally fine too. Do what you need to do and that's best for you and your body. Okay, so I also have a bunch of items for show and tell, like my lemon packets, things along those lines. So I'm going to be doing a bit of that also tonight. So we'll probably go 30, 45-ish minutes. And again, I want to leave space for if you guys have any particular questions, because I know that they come up. And, whenever I first did this cleanse, I remember going to the grocery store and having this list and being like, ground flaxseed. In case you're like, what is that? So ground flaxseed. Right? So this is what we put in our lemon water in the morning. Know that you can also skip that. I actually just do lemon, the lemon packet that I just showed you, and hot water. Okay, but it's a great source of fiber and omega-3s, and this is really wonderful for your smoothies. So again, I'll just be showing different pieces that I hope might be helpful for you. And this is coming from a super duper novice, because what I mean by that is I had to really get exposed to a lot of stuff that your average person may already know. Like I get a lot of my veggies that I'm going to be adding to my brown rice from the freezer section, and I steam the bag. Okay, so I am taking this at a very, very basic level, and I hope that will also be helpful for you. All right, so that's the outline basically for tonight. And again, I wanted to share what some of the benefits are. So I will say that after I did my very first one where I succeeded, I noticed, I have eczema. And so I noticed that actually without all the added sugar that my eczema issues declined. And that was just after 7 days. So I thought that was really interesting. You will notice, those of you who are slightly addicted or highly addicted to caffeine, you will notice potentially some headaches or really a sense of withdrawal, even if you are cutting back on sugar and you're used to consuming a lot of sugar. So know that's part of the process, and you want to do all you can to manage that, and that's with a lot of the self-care practices that we'll be talking about. Feeling lighter, that was also definitely a benefit of this practice. So I remember going jean shopping after that, and I mentioned this in Year of Tranquility last week. So first time I bought jeans in like 10-15 years, and jean shopping is not really a very fun experience typically. And I remember going and feeling just so incredibly light. And so that's one of the things that's really great too about a detox, is you just feel a lot lighter. So think about times whenever you eat you know, like me, I love pizza. So after I eat pizza, of course, I feel very heavy. And that's the thing about the foods we'll be eating throughout this week. It's definitely a feeling of lightness that we'll be experiencing. So to me, that's a perk. Increased energy and without the caffeine, which is amazing. Reduced cravings. So, you know, the interesting thing, I know that one of you posted actually in the forum for Year of Tranquility that chocolate is something that you're super addicted to, and the craving for that. And you know what I found as I go in and out of sugar addiction, I guess I'm always addicted, but really like sugar consumption, is that if I don't have it for a while, I don't crave it as much. So that's one of the things I think might be helpful to keep in mind. It's like a muscle that you exercise. All right. The other thing is lower stress levels. So I just found too that whenever I am on this, it's like my cortisol isn't spiking the same as it is, you know, whenever I'm eating more processed foods. So just, I wanted to share the benefits in case you're like, why in the world am I doing this? All right. So again, 7-day detox. We're starting tomorrow. Of course, it's optional. And if you're like, you know, if there are any health issues or medical conditions, of course, you would want to consult a doctor. But basically, all we're doing is we're removing sugar, animal products, and caffeine and alcohol, and it's basically at processed foods. So really, it's just all about eating like a whole grain or a whole foods plant-based diet for a week. All right, so you may be like, well, what can I eat? So I got an email from somebody earlier this week. She's like, I eat mainly gluten, and I didn't realize like gluten was, you know, off the list. And so, you know, the thing about gluten is a lot of people have gluten sensitivities. And so it's just kind of nice to notice too, like if you're super duper drawn to it, to become more aware about maybe I could cut back a little bit on it. But I want you to know too that this practice, having done it a few times and only really fully completing it once, it's a lot about the process. So know that even if you do one day of it, or you do one meal and then you slip, you can always start again. So I just want to encourage that, because I know some of us are super addicted to carbs or super addicted to sugar, or, you know, your green tea or your coffee in the morning. All right, so that's kind of why earlier in the week, whenever I put this out, I was like, start weaning yourself off the caffeine and off the sugar. All right, so what do we eat then, right? So veggies, okay, lots of dark leafy greens. So today I went to Giant, I picked up a huge bag of kale. Now, kale's great for making kale chips, of course, for snacks, but it's also great for just throwing in your smoothies. The next thing is quinoa, and I have a bag of quinoa. I'm sure you are fully aware of what quinoa looks like, the Trader Joe's. So quinoa is really great. It's a great protein and it's gluten-free. So quinoa, brown rice, which I have brown rice, it's in the freezer. So I actually buy frozen brown rice, which I'm sure most of you know how to cook brown rice, so you don't need the frozen. I do. So, and it's P.F. Chang's, and it's great. You just throw it in the microwave, and then I will add the frozen broccoli, typically, and then I sprinkle it with, and if you don't have some of this, I highly recommend it, Bragg liquid aminos. Super tasty. It's basically an alternative to soy sauce, but it actually has all this great, like, yummy stuff in it that's good for you. So Bragg liquid aminos, you can get this online, but you may find this to be something of interest or something that would be helpful for you. Again, so brown rice and millet. All right, so another thing is beans. So of course, I love me some black beans. They're great. We'll talk about how to make like these yummy little veggie tacos with collard greens. So beans, any kind of bean is great. Legumes, and then lentils. Lentils are so good for you. I'm slowly developing a palate for lentils. They're so good for you. They're not super sexy, but I do think they grow on you. And the great thing is, those of you who eat at Starbucks, they just came out with this great vegan bowl that's full of lentils and all these yummy vegetables. So that's actually, you could go and pick that up for your lunch if you're on the go during the detox. Okay, another thing is unroasted, unsalted nuts and seeds. Okay, so I know it's kind of a bummer because you probably like the tamari roasted almonds or the wasabi almonds. And the thing is you want kind of just natural, completely pure. So getting I love sprinkling sunflower seeds on salads. And so nuts and seeds. Okay, so those are actually lots of good sources of protein, and I carry just like a little tub. You know, it's a tub that I think hummus came in at one point, and I just reused it, and I carry that in my bag. That's just so I always have it on the go. Yay, you adore quinoa, Ellen, can't eat lentils. Yeah, some of these things are going to be like, I can't eat them or I don't want to eat them, and that's totally fine too. Yeah, brown rice pasta, Lisa, absolutely. So, you know, there's all sorts of great alternatives to pasta that is like squash spaghetti, all sorts of stuff out there. So please feel free to pick those up, especially those of you who are really like into your pasta. I love me some pasta. And then it's just nice to know that you can have, you know, something that is gluten-free with the pasta. Okay, fruit. Believe it or not, so fruit has a lot of sugar, right? So particularly apples, a lot of strawberries, things along those lines. But you can have all the fruit you want, fresh herbs, water, of course. So drink your water. And I'm sure all of you know, but to always have your reusable water bottle with you because you want to stay as hydrated as possible. And then herbal tea. And I wanted to show you one tea that I actually picked up. Now, you don't have to get this one. I just wanted to show it as an example. And it's called Everyday Detox by Traditional Medicines. So I actually had a cup this evening, and it has lemon in it, which, you know, I can never get enough lemon. I used 2 of these packets for my hot water that goes in here, and I use 2 packets, so it's quite tart, but that's how I get my lemon, because sometimes I would buy lemons and they would just go bad, but these, I drink these all the time, and you can get like 500 of these packets on Amazon. Believe it or not, I go through like 500 in 6 months. But anyway, there's quite a few detox teas on the market, so if you wanted to pick up something like this, then, you know, that might be something that you could appreciate or enjoy. I even saw there was a yogi tea one that was like berry detox, and it was for skin. So, you know, if you wanted to get a detox tea, so this could be like a little evening treat, you might find that helpful. In the evenings is something too, because I tend to get a sweet craving right before bed. I usually go for Smarties. I know, I don't judge. And thank goodness I'm out of them. But now I can go for my detox tea instead, at least this week, until I get more Smarties. Okay, the other thing is unsweetened non-dairy milk. So we want to skip the dairy, no dairy this week. And dairy is quite inflammatory, and it's also, you know, really great to notice kind of what are the effects of dairy on the system when you don't have it. But unsweetened, so I love almond milk, right? And I usually get the brand Almond Breeze. You have to make sure that you get the unsweetened version, because otherwise it's packed with sugar, which is such a bummer. So skipping the vanilla, skipping all that, and just get the unsweetened non-dairy milk. Of course, there's soy milk, there's rice milk, there's coconut milk. I love the almond. There's hemp. I think there's even hemp milk. So all sorts of great options for you, particularly if you like your morning cereal, or, you know, to add that to your shakes or your smoothies, because then it's also more protein. And then the other thing that I just want to mention is extra virgin olive oil. So it's great for, you know, sauteing or roasting or whatever it is you do with the veggies if you don't throw them in the microwave from a frozen packet, as I do. But, you know, one thing too that's great about the extra virgin olive oil, I'll just show, is tomato. So you have to see, look at these little holes. I found this over on my dog's bed. He had stolen this while I was taking a bath and was gnawing on it. So anyway, forgive the fact that it is so not perfect, but I love the tomatoes off the vine, right? So yummy. We went to the farmer's market last week and I picked up some heirloom tomatoes. Oh my God. Even I bought this one that was like this big. It was like $5. I had no idea. I get it home, it goes missing. I'm like, well, it's clearly in my dog's belly, so I have to hide my tomatoes. But these are really great. Just slicing them, sprinkling some extra virgin olive oil on it, and then I love some Himalayan sea salt. So tasty. Maybe even another thing that's really good that we add a lot to in our house is Montreal steak seasoning. So we don't eat the steak, but we like the seasoning and we put it on everything, including tomatoes. All right, so those are just some ideas on things to add into your repertoire. And some of these things you guys may be eating regularly, but this is what we want to make sure that we're having lots of this season. Yes, cauliflower roasted is amazing. Nut pods. Yes, you guys have so many great ideas. M&Ms are my poison. I hear you, Laura. Oh my gosh. Especially the ones with peanuts. It's like, Lord have mercy. Okay, now what to eliminate? All right, so gluten. All right, so this is wheat, rye, barley. Animal products. So fish, eggs, meat. Now, some of you who are like, oh my God, there's no way I could go without, you know, some sort of source of protein. I'm going to tell you all the proteins you can get from plant-based foods. But, you know, if you have to, then having maybe some salmon, some fish, but ideally cutting it out and just noticing the effects. I mean, some people are like, oh my God, there's no way I could go without it. And then, you know, oftentimes realize that you don't even really miss it, particularly if you have great additional substitutes. And when I say substitutes, I don't mean the fake meats. Those are lovely, however, they're not necessarily healthy because they're processed. So what we want to do is eat lots of tomatoes, fruits, vegetables, ideally ones that have not been in your dog's mouth. All right, so eliminating gluten, animal products. Okay, the next is caffeine. And I think that this is probably the hardest for a lot of people. Because of the morning coffee and the afternoon kind of lull and the desire to have a little hit of something, that's actually where I would get in trouble if there were ever vending machines places and I would go for sugar. Things like honey buns, which are not so healthy, but very tasty. All right, so we want to eliminate the caffeine. And, you know, you may have to wean yourself a little, particularly those of you who are just kind of signing on to this and are like, oh my gosh, tomorrow morning, what am I going to drink? So, you know, maybe if you are a coffee drinker, maybe you switch to something like a green tea. Okay, so you just slowly begin to wean yourself over the week and just notice too what effects you have. Believe it or not, caffeine, I'm pretty sure in the latest DSM, which is the diagnostic manual for therapists, it's interesting, caffeine addiction is newly added. And so who knew, but it's like, it's clearly a thing, and it's a thing that I think is worth like weaning a little bit. So it doesn't mean that you can't ever have it. Ideally, if you could remove it for this week, that would be amazing. But if you can't, then, you know, green tea or white tea. White tea is even less. Alcohol. I know this can be hard for people too. Some people like to come home and have a glass of wine at the end of the day. And so if possible, no alcohol at all for a week. And then soda. You know, soda, even the diet soda, you know, it's like all the processed bits in it, the sugar that's in it, and the you know, the calories. If you're not drinking a diet one, it's quite shocking. You know, you could get a full day's worth of calories and a few big sodas in one day, which is kind of shocking. Okay, sugar. And when I say sugar, I don't mean sugar like you can't have any sugar like sugar that's in an apple or something. What I mean by that is anything that has added sugar. So what you have to do, which is kind of a pain, is to check the back, the nutrition facts, and then just notice, like, is what's in the ingredients. So I remember after I saw the documentary Fed Up, and if you have not seen Fed Up, I highly encourage you to watch it. I think you would really enjoy it. It's a Katie Couric documentary all about sugar. Really, it's focused on childhood obesity and the fact that in the 70s, which some of you may remember, everything went like super low fat, which was great. We're like, oh my gosh, I was eating those circus peanuts, you know, those orange, like foamy candy things. I'm like, fat free, you know, not focused at all on nutrition, just thinking fat free. Well, what they say in this documentary is that once we remove fat, we remove flavor. So to get the flavor back, well, you have to add sugar. And so now we have this massive issue with sugar. Highly recommend that documentary. Well, at the end of the documentary, they encourage you to take a 10-day sugar fast. And again, it just means with no added sugar. So I was so excited, I signed up. I'm like, I'm doing this. And then the afternoon, day one, I had trail mix that had dried cranberries in it. Well, dried cranberries have added sugar. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. It's like you have to read the labels. And, you know, it's a pain, but I tell you, you begin to realize what is filled with sugar. I mean, ketchup, full of sugar. So, I mean, that's why it tastes so good, right? That's why it's so fun on your sweet potato fries. But, you know, just something to become aware of. Okay, dairy. So cutting out dairy completely, and I'll be curious too to hear how you guys feel after doing so. And dairy, if you're curious, it's there's a great article that someone who I totally admire, Jean Bauer of Farm Sanctuary, recently wrote, and it's basically that dairy is the new tobacco. And so if you're interested, just Google it. You'll find the article. I forget what it was in. I think it was a local paper, but a pretty big paper. But anyway, so it's just interesting to read about the effects of dairy on our system, despite the fact we were brought up drinking cow's milk, which is kind of weird. So I encourage you to check that out and also see if you can eliminate it. And then also to see it's in so much stuff. Okay, and then last but not least is processed or fried foods. All right, so processed or fried foods, that of course it means all the, you know, fake meats, things along those lines. So we want to just be eating as whole foods, plant-based as possible, meaning in pure form. Again, off the vine, right? Okay, so you may be like, that's great, but what in the world am I going to be able to eat? So I wanted to give you some meal ideas because I think that that can be helpful as we think about, okay, well, okay, you've just eliminated everything I eat in my diet. So I'm going to give you lots and lots of ideas. So hopefully you guys are taking notes, and I'll also put this over on my blog so that you guys will have that. And I encourage you too to do a little Googling for some great recipes. I wanted to show a few books that have some wonderful things too. Okay, so one, this is something that when I was volunteering at hospice, this woman I met who was a fellow volunteer, she told me about this book, The 10-Day Green Smoothie Cleanse. And I was like, interesting. So anyway, I went and picked it up. This woman who wrote it, J.J. Smith, has a huge following, super interesting woman. And basically, you know, it's basically what we're doing, except for it's a lot of eating or drinking smoothies. So this is a really cool book, I thought, to pick up because as you see, it's just so thin. And again, it's all about, you know, going through a cleanse, but in a way that's like super duper basic and simple. And she talks about too which greens and why green smoothies. Okay, this is what I'm going to really push for you guys for the mornings. And also like who can benefit from it and why. So it's really it's a wonderful book. And the big thing is it's just basically no processed, and of course drinking a lot of smoothies. The great thing about smoothies, one thing I want to mention, the great thing about smoothies versus juices, you don't have to have a juicer. Juicers can be you know, it's a bit more work. They're really yummy, but it's a bit more work. I tend to just do smoothies because also the thing about smoothies is they're quite filling. Like I feel full after I have a smoothie. I had one for breakfast today. And so what instead, you know, you'll want to do is having something like this. It can even be a meal replacement in the afternoon or what have you. But juices are really, really good. They're full of nutrients, you just don't get the fiber. So that's the great thing about smoothies. Anyway, I just wanted to mention this book because I thought it was just so well done. She also has lots of recipes in it. And then she also tells you, of course, how to get prepared. It gives you the shopping list. And of course, really all it is, it's like frozen blueberries, frozen strawberries, frozen mango chunks, frozen kale, you know, all sorts of great stuff. And if you haven't seen, you may already know this, but you can buy, it's a little more expensive though, but you can buy smoothie ready packets in the grocery store now, even ones that have acai in them. So it's really nice. Or you can just simply, like we save our bananas whenever they go bad, we don't want to eat them anymore, I'll peel them and then I'll put them in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer. So I have those for my smoothies. And then of course I buy frozen fruit, and then I just throw in a bunch of spinach. I also throw in a bit of kale. I throw in flaxseed. I throw in chia seed. Chia seed's so great, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then last but not least, sorry to get so close, hemp protein. So some sort of protein can be really nice too to add. All right, so those are just some examples of things that I wanted to mention with regard to the green smoothie. And you know what, there's no science to it, even though there's a lot of great recipes in this. There's no science to it. I just tend to add a lot of stuff in and hope for the best, and it's always different. Another book I wanted to mention that you might enjoy seeing is Eat Pretty, Nutrition for Beauty Inside and Out. Okay, clearly this is what we're talking about this month in Year of Tranquility, the importance of beauty inside and out. And this, of course, starts with all about nutrition. Two others that I just wanted to mention, again, those of you who like books and like resources. One is Crazy Sexy Diet. So this is Chris Carr, Eat Your Veggies, Ignite Your Spark, and Live Like You Mean It. And it also includes a 21-day cleanse. All right, we're just doing 7. Last but not least, this one I really enjoyed too, The Beauty Detox Solution. And she's got quite a few books out, like The Beauty Detox Cleanse. I think she has 2 others around the Beauty Detox title. But anyway, this is another great book. And these all, they come with recipes and ideas on, you know, how to eat in a way that supports you and supports your kind of your outward beauty also, and also energy. Okay, so next is chia seed pudding. So breakfast, thinking green smoothie, chia seed pudding. And if you're like, how in the world do I make that? Okay, chia seeds. So you take 3 cups of unsweetened almond milk and then a ½ cup of chia seeds. And then what you do is you whisk it, and then you let it sit for about 10 minutes. You whisk it again, and then you chill it. It's so good. I encourage you to maybe make some tonight, those of you who happen to have chia seeds lying around. And you want to have chia seeds lying around. These are something you always want to have in your pantry. But go ahead and whip that up, and then have it for you ready for breakfast. And then you can top it with fruit, you can top it with nuts, you can top it with seeds. It's actually really tasty. And you'll see chia seed puddings. I even see it at Pret, you know, the kind of to-go food downtown, and you know, kind of all over the country. I think it's a chain, but they have the chia seed pudding with like fresh mango on top. So nice. But you could take, you know, some frozen mango from your frozen fruit packet and then just add it to it and let it thaw a little bit. Another thing is gluten-free steel-cut oats. So I checked. Oats are gluten-free, but sometimes oats are processed in a facility that is processed with gluten. So anyone who has gluten allergies would want to make sure you're getting the gluten-free. But overall, steel-cut oats are gluten-free. Avocado toast. Now the thing is I tend to eat my avocado toast on Ezekiel toast. And if you don't know Ezekiel toast, it's really great. So it's sprouted bread. But the thing is it does have gluten, but it also has all this other great stuff. However, since we're kind of trying to do the gluten-free-ish piece here in this detox, you could do it on grain-free or gluten-free crackers, you know, something along those lines, because avocado toast is so good. And you probably know how to do this, but you just take an avocado, you scoop it out, you mash it, and then you can sprinkle stuff on top. Again, we tend to sprinkle like things like chia seed pudding or chia seeds, Montreal steak seasoning. You can put all sorts of great stuff, and just Google, you'll find some wonderful avocado toast recipes online. Okay, the next thing I wanted to mention, and I've had to hide this the whole night because my dogs have been trying to get it, protein balls. So look, I even put the protein ball on a doily on this cute little plate that someone gave me. It's a protein ball. So these are, oh my God, it smells so good. Okay, this is not sugar, sorry, peanut butter. It's a sugary treat though. It's quite sweet. Vegan chocolate chips, which may have sugar added actually. So the all natural peanut butter, dates, and oats. So that's what's in this. So good. Another thing, and they were just out of them, so we didn't have them to put with this, but is unsweetened coconut flakes. So then you could roll it around in it, and then you put it in the refrigerator or freezer. And these are so good. I mean, truly, I could have 1 or 2 of these. It's a breakfast. It's a great snack midday. Really, really good. So protein balls. And if you're like, what in the world? Google it. You will find all sorts of wonderful recipes out there. And they're quite easy to make in the fact that they're also no bake. So a lot of times you don't really have to do stuff. You just have to roll it all together, mush it, and make it happen. Protein balls. So breakfast bowls, that's another great thing for breakfast. And the thing about breakfast bowls, super easy. in the fact, think of it like a smoothie. So it's basically just your smoothie put in a bowl, and then you top it with things like unsweetened coconut flakes, hemp seeds, fresh fruit, chia seeds, always good, muesli, and then green juice. So those are just some ideas for breakfast. Of course, they're just ideas, but just to show you that there's a lot that you can do and consume that's really, really yummy with regard to, you know, making sure that you're getting in your protein and you're nice and full and you're staying true to your detox. All right. So now let's talk lunch and dinner. So lunch and dinner, it's like, okay, what am I going to eat? I'm used to like a burger or whatever it might be. So mixed green salads. And I wanted to show you one other thing. Okay, this is my favorite little salad mix. It's empty because I have consumed it, but I have 3 more in the bin. I was prepped. I was getting ready for my detox. But this one I get at Safeway, and it's sweet kale chopped salad. So what's really great about this, it's broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, I must confess, I give most of those to my dog, cabbage, and dried cranberries, which I don't tend to put in, and roasted pumpkin seeds, and poppy seed dressing. Now, I'm sure the poppy seed dressing actually has some added sugar. It's very good. But anyway, this is a great little mix, and all of half is a meal. So you get 2 meals out of this for like $3.99. And it says contains 5 superfoods, right? So it's quite tasty. So mixed green salads. Steamed veggies over brown rice. And as I mentioned earlier, I tend to do brown rice that is frozen that I just steam in the microwave. It's so yummy because I like the rice that comes out and it's kind of stuck together. And it is. I get the P.F. Chang's, but I'm sure there's others that are really, really great. I've just found that at the local Safeway. And then I'll put brown rice, I'll put some veggies over it, and then I add my aminos. This is really great. Again, I highly recommend having that around. Quinoa salad. So I showed quinoa earlier. Veggie soups, and there's lots of recipes out there to make your own. You can also make your own with beans. Like my favorite is like the Tuscan white bean soup. So yummy. Hummus, of course, is great. And I'll tell you something to do with the hummus in a moment. So another thing is nori papers. This is seaweed. And you may be like, I'm not going to make my own wrap. But the cool thing about it is you could get a salad mix, right? And then you can put the salad mix in here and some hummus. You could like coat it with hummus, salad mix, roll it, and then you've made your own little healthy wrap. So that's one thing to also keep in mind that might be, like a fun alternative or option. Now, another thing that goes along with that are veggie tacos. So same thing, you could get that salad mix and you could put some beans, some black beans, but then inside you put it inside a collard wrap or a collard green wrap. You've probably seen these, and you could put some sprouts on it. So cute. They fall apart while you're eating them, but they look really cute. So yeah, it's like this big lettuce leaf that holds your taco. So instead of a taco shell, really good. Sweet potatoes. Roasted cauliflower, and one of you actually mentioned earlier how much you like the roasted cauliflower. So good. And I just wanted to mention, if you're like, what do I do with with cauliflower? So you buy a big head of it. My boyfriend will eat a whole head in one sitting. So you chop it into bite-sized pieces, then you toss it with olive oil and sea salt, roast it for 30 minutes on about 375, and then until it's slightly brown. Quite tasty. And the thing about it is it's a really interesting alternative too to buffalo wings. You can use buffalo wing sauce, all sorts of really yummy stuff. But Google, you can find some wonderful ideas for the roasted cauliflower. It's a thing. Of course, veggie stir fry, and then tomatoes, as I mentioned earlier. I love my tomato. Tomato avocado. So everybody, I'm sure, knows what an avocado looks like. So the avocado, these are great. This one's unfortunately hard as a rock, so I have to put it in a brown paper bag. And then some black beans. It's a wonderful, wonderful little snack. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And again, talking about snacks, it's like, okay, well, what am I gonna snack on if I don't have my typical go-tos? So one thing I wanted to show, a couple things actually, is, okay, first off, these are not pickles. We reuse jars. So walnuts, Again, always want to have nuts kind of with you, particularly on the go, because whenever I get low blood sugar, I get cranky, hangry. And so having something like that can be super helpful to just toss in my mouth and get me going. These I just discovered and I'm like obsessed with. Now granted, these are processed, I assume, because, you know, fruits and greens don't come like this. However, they're, you know, it's really, the good thing about these is all that's in it is, like for this one, apples, apricots, cashews, pineapple, kale, fruit and greens. I get these at CVS. So good, Lara bars. And then this one, I just discovered fruits and greens, strawberry, spinach, cashew. So again, that's all that's in it. No added sugar, no nothing. These I like to have, and I usually pick one up at the CVS near where I take ballet, and I eat it en route to ballet class just to have a little like protein, a little hit before I go in. Of course, the protein balls, which I mentioned and showed you earlier, wonderful, wonderful recipes out there. And then apple and peanut butter. So I wanted to show you my favorite peanut butter. I'm kind of obsessed with this. I will eat it by the spoonful, which probably is not ideal, but it's very good. And this actually got me through the last detox because it's a sweet treat, right? So peanuts, all it is peanuts. So skip the Jiffy, none of that. So all it is peanuts. Crazy Richards. I like the chunky, but it's really great. You put it on your apples, you know, and it's a wonderful way to eat your apples for those of you who may not be as into apples naked, right? So I like them coated with peanut butter. Another thing I wanted to show you too that I just discovered, and then somebody actually mentioned this on the Year of Tranquility forum, is riced cauliflower. So again, I just found this in the frozen food section, but it's just cauliflower, and then yeah, it's like looks like rice, and it's quite tasty, and it has herbs. So it says 80% fewer carbs than rice, 1 serving of vegetables per serving. But anyway, I was like, wow, you know, riced cauliflower. So you can find all sorts of great stuff. And rice is gluten-free, so, you know, brown rice I can't get enough of. So good for you, and so filling. So you may be like, okay, well, where do I get my protein during this week of detoxing from tomorrow through the 16th? And the reason I did it through the 16th is I was like, oh, St. Patty's Day, people might, you know, people do all sorts of things on St. Patty's Day. So I thought, well, let's have the detox in before then. So that's why we're doing it the 10th through the 16th. But again, those of you just kind of tuning in, know you can do this whenever you want. So you could do a 1-day detox, you could do a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day. And I've got all this information over on my blog, KimberlyWilson.com/blog. So check that out, because it'll give you some more tips if you're like taking notes like crazy and forget anything. So protein, you get your protein through the beans, the hummus, almonds, cashews, flaxseed, hazelnuts, pine nuts, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, edamame. That's another really great thing, is I'll buy edamame frozen in the pods, and then you just heat it up in the microwave, and sometimes it even comes with like the sea salt, and so yummy and so filling. Lentils, nutritional yeast. That's another thing along with the brag that I want to mention that's really, really good to have on hand. So nutritional yeast gives things the cheesy flavor that you might miss going dairy-free. And it's a powder. We're actually out of it here, or I would have it to show you. We love to sprinkle it on kale chips or things along those lines. Of course, nut milks, lots of protein. Oats, wild rice, chia seeds. Hello, chia seeds. I mean, these, I cannot emphasize enough how wonderful these are. Nuts, nut butters, and seeds, and then, of course, fruits and veggies. And I wanted to mention which veggies have the most protein, because I thought you all might be interested in that. So broccoli, spinach, and I buy spinach in those big, like, bins that are like $5, and you know, you just use handfuls of it in your green smoothies, or of course you could have it in a salad, or you could have it in your veggie tacos, whatever feels most appropriate. Asparagus, artichokes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. So those have the highest protein with regard to veggies. So those are kind of my ideas with regard to breakfast, lunch and dinner, snacks, and how do I get my protein plant-based? Tons of it. The next thing I wanted to mention before I take any questions or we begin to wrap up is practices to include with this, because I will say that you might find yourself, you know, as you're trying to make any habit shifts, we can get a little cranky. So self-care is critical, and I just wanted to show a few things that are helpful for this. So one, dry skin brushing. So Many of you have probably heard of this, dry skin brushing, and this is a softer brush. Sometimes they're pretty rough, but you're supposed to do this before you shower, right? So the idea is to get rid of all the dead skin. So dry skin brushing, whole body. Another thing that I love is almond oil, right? So I love to use this for moisturizing body, face, hair. You can even use it. So almond oil is an option. Of course, there's many other oils out there that you might prefer, but that's just one that I wanted to mention with regard to self-care. So the other things on the self-care list are tongue scraping. I didn't bring out my tongue scraper. So tongue scraping. I love tongue scraping. Sounds bizarre, but I've done it for, gosh, probably about 15 years. I even travel with a tongue scraper. And you scrape your tongue before you brush your teeth. Do it morning and night. And tongue scrapers, you can get those at Whole Foods. You can find them online. They're super standard, and they're really, really great. And it's interesting to notice, like, wow, what is on my tongue? You know, it's like, what have I accumulated throughout the day from what I've eaten, from the environmental toxins, etc. The other thing that's on the list, and if you're like, where is that list? This list, again, there's a link to it in the blog that I posted yesterday whenever I talked about the detox kickoff. The other thing is journal writing. All right, so journal writing, so helpful. And so, you know, with that, just kind of track. You could track, what did I eat? How did I feel? What was my energy level? What was my mood? You know, and just begin to notice, because sometimes it's like, certain foods trigger certain emotions or certain feelings, or, you know, it's like, I don't feel very full and I had XYZ. Okay, how can I add more tomorrow to increase it or improve maybe the amount of protein I'm getting or the amount of veggies? I had too many fruits, you know, whatever it is. So beginning to track it, and that can be really helpful in your journal, but also to track kind of emotions and how are you feeling about this process? Where are you frustrated? Whenever you don't quite meet your goal of, you know, making it through the detox one day. All right, well, honoring that, noticing that, and then getting back up and starting again. And then the other few pieces that are really important is exercise. So again, this is all on the list. Exercise, so making sure that you're moving the body. Also baths, and that's where this almond oil can also come in quite handy. I like to pour this into my bath, and it does make a bit of a mess in your bath. I will confess, like the whole area is like slippery, but it feels so good to soak in the almond oil. And then the other piece with this, of course, is the herbal tea. So I mentioned earlier. So these are like the self-care practices that go along with what it is we're eating and consuming. A couple other things are meditation. Be super helpful. And of course, yoga, you know, yoga is a wonderful tool. So, and when I say that too, that might just fit into your exercise routine. And what I mean is just making sure you're moving your body so that you're not stagnant. You're not just sitting in front of the computer, you know, without like giving the body some sort of movement and openness, especially when it's going through a bit of shift with what you're putting in your system. All right, so those are the self-care practices that are critical really to incorporate with regard to your detox program. So as you prepare, and I know it's like we're starting tomorrow, but no, too, you may be like, I'm not starting on the weekend. I'm going to start on Monday when I get back to work. So here are a few ideas on how to prepare. Review the basic food plan. And again, the basic food plan, it's listed on the blog, and it's also listed on this checklist, this little PDF that was linked to. And pick up these staples: brown rice, fresh or frozen veggies, kale, spinach, frozen fruit for your smoothies, avocados, chia seed, ground flaxseed, lemon. And again, if you're like, I don't really want to pick up lemon, know that these little lemon packets, the brand again is True Value. These are really great. Raw nuts, veggie stock for soup. So especially if you want to make your own soup, you know, getting a veggie bouillon, and you can make your own soup. Chop up some carrots, some celery, you know, and make just like a really yummy veggie based soup filled with veggies. Herbal tea, nut butters, gluten-free whole grains, and hummus. So those are kind of like the staples that are just good to have. Make sure you have in your in your cupboard and in your refrigerator. So start weaning off the sugar and the caffeine. I know that's hard. Start upgrading your eating to include 5 servings of fruit and veggies each day. So this is, again, how you can prepare. Gather and schedule your self-care, right? So get your journal, tongue scraper, your bath supplies, your dry skin brush. Again, if you want to do this, this is, again, something that can be quite helpful, or just it's part of the detox experience. It's also very common with regard to Ayurveda. Exercise and massage. That's one other thing that I wanted to mention, because this might be fun for you too, as a way to nourish yourself in this process, is to reward yourself with a massage. And again, massage is great for moving out toxins. Schedule time for food shopping and prep before Saturday. Okay, I know for most of you it's late at night, so that may not happen unless you're going to hit the grocery store now, or hopefully you've already hit the grocery store, or maybe you can even do it in the morning. And then download the detox checklist. And again, that's over on the blog. So I'm curious, and I'm just going to head on over and see if anyone has any particular questions. Oh, wow, there's lots. Are honey and real maple syrup out? Oh, that's a great question. Well, honey is an animal product, and maple syrup is not. So, however, I would say do either. You know, whatever feels best for you, Lisa, and feels like it would be good to allow you, because there's also, gosh, what else is there? There's agave nectar. So there's quite a few different things that we can have to give us a sweet touch. There's also stevia. You know, stevia, the thing about agave nectar is it tends to spike sugar levels. I was so sad whenever I learned that, because I used to love, and I used to drink a lot, or put a lot of agave nectar into my green tea in the morning, and then I stopped because I realized the effect that it was having. So Michelle, you just asked about agave. Yeah. Let's see, anyone else? Pre-ground. Oh yeah. Can be pre-ground or open and de-seed. Yes, great. You guys are all sorts of things. Oh, and the mashed cauliflower pizza crust. Yum, so tasty. And Ayurveda self-massage, yes, Ellie. And if anyone's like, what in the world is that? Check out Ayurveda. Just Google Ayurveda self-massage. So the thing, you know, you do the dry skin brushing, then you massage your body with like these heavy oils, then you get into the shower. So yeah, that's a wonderful way to help with the cleansing and the detoxing. And again, you know, in closing, Epsom salts in your bath, absolutely. Such a wonderful way to help with the detoxing. It also helps to like ease the muscles, and if you're exercising more than usual, or you just find like you're detoxifying, and you just like, I find Epsom salts super duper helpful. Oh, and the great thing is you can get Epsom salts that have like even lavender in them, or eucalyptus, or you can simply buy plain Epsom salts and then just add some lavender oil to your bath. Yes, Ellie, add essential oil. Yes, exactly. They are amazing. So those are just some ways too to make sure like your bath feels super therapeutic, and again that you're taking good care of yourself in this process. So again, in closing, I just want to encourage everyone to do your very best with this, to know that there's no right or wrong way to do it. And what I mean by that is if you do one day, if you do one meal, if you do 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, amazing. And again, if it helps at all to read about my experience, it might help to see that this is not an easy process, and it's also incredibly eye-opening. You know, again, I was able to see like, wow, I am so easily distracted. For example, I remember writing in detox diaries, because I did a detox last January of 17. And I remember I went into Starbucks because I wanted to get, you know, those dried apple chips. And I was like, gosh, I hope they have plain and not cinnamon, because that's what I really want. And they didn't have plain, they only had cinnamon. I didn't want cinnamon. And then I saw across the way this sweet potato cupcake, and I got it. And I was like, oh, you know, it's like I didn't go in for it. I went in for something healthy that fit into my detox, and then I was distracted. So I think it's one of those things to be gentle with yourself and know this is a process. It's not easy. I'm going along with you for the ride, and I'll be posting on Instagram about it. I'll be sharing on the blog. Those of you in Year of Tranquility, of course, we've got our forum. We'll be talking about it. And I wish you the very best with this. This will be a really, really good experience, hopefully eye-opening, awareness raising, and I think too, hopefully therapeutic, and maybe even lead to some different lifestyle changes that might resonate with you and feel a little better for your health, for the environment, for the animals, as we think about things that we can cut out of our diets and things that we can put in that are more nourishing, nurturing, and cause less suffering for ourselves and for the environment and for the animals. So I hope this is helpful. I thank you guys so much for being here with me tonight, spending your Friday night with me. I was like, how else would I want to spend my Friday night rather than going through this with you guys? So thank you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, Kimberly@KimberlyWilson.com. And what I'll do is I'll share it over on the blog, answer it, or share it in our detox forum, Year of Tranquility, and make sure that you get all the support that you need. I'm here to support you, and I know that you are there supporting me, and that helps me with this process too, because it is not easy. All right, thank you guys so much. Good luck. You got this. Go make your chia seed pudding. Go take a hot bath and bask in some almond oil, put in some lavender essential oil, drink some hot water with lemon, and we're off to the races. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you guys so much for being here.